Hey, Cricket customers, Max with ads is included with your Cricket $60 unlimited plan at no additional cost.
Nice!
Max is the streaming platform where you can watch Scoob, Meg 2 The Trench, The Nightmare on Elm Street collection, and so much more.
Remember me.
Just log in with your Cricket username and password to experience Max on all your favorite devices.
We've never seen this before.
Max, the one to watch for a good scream with Cricket. Phone plan streams in standard definition. Programming subject to change. Fees, terms, and restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
They say a week is a really long time in politics, so why is Rishi's in... He's got a new house, and he went to Meta King, and now I'm Nadine Dorries, and this is Non-Censored. Harriet is away today, so I'm stepping in. Me, Nadine Dorries, former Secretary of Cultures, presenting all the best bits from Harriet's radio show. Radio is like television, but it's not as good.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you aboard, Nadine.
Thank you.
I'm sure Harriet's left the ship in safe hands, and I look forward to getting this all recorded. And
do you live on a boat?
Studio.
Does she live on a boat? Do you?
No, I tell you what, I don't know why I brought up boats at all. That's
I
fine.
don't understand.
Let's keep things as literal as possible.
So go ahead.
Well, it's going to be a good show. I'm certainly excited. We've mixed it up with a little sort of presenting duo. I mean, who knows? Maybe this will start its own spin-off podcast. What do you think?
I don't understand what you're talking about. So what's... Yeah.
Well, first of all, I suppose we should cover some of the things that we couldn't quite get to this week. We asked Suella Braverman for an interview, but she just walked off. We had a wonderful section on Channel 4 that Nadine, has asked us not to include, so that's...
Thank you, I like loyalty, that's very good.
And we also didn't have time for Eshaan Akbar's segment in the podcast this week.
Well, that's a shame, because I thought he actually had some very good points about open relationships and how people should be a lot less jealous, actually, about their partners having extramarital...
Well, yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Sadly, I wiped the tape, so...
Is that before or after you were crying? Because you did some crying, didn't you? No, it wasn't.
It doesn't... Anyway, why don't we start with your interview?
Oh, yes, I was brilliant at this. I interviewed Rosie Holt MP about loyalty and the events of the week and why she doesn't have any loyalty or events of the week. Hello, Rosie Holt. So let's just start with an easy one, I think. So, but why are you so disloyal?
Well, I think, Nadine, I think that's, I wouldn't say I'm disloyal. I'd say I'm very loyal. In fact, I'm very loyal to the parliamentary party, to our Prime Minister, and that sometimes, yes, you have to sort of shift your loyalties about, but sometimes if you're being loyal to the country, that's what being loyal is.
You should never shift your loyalties. That's just a fact. That's a political fact. Never do it. And you did that, didn't you?
Well, no, but I think that shifting loyalties is almost... it's almost not shifting your loyalties. It's almost being still in your loyalties by shifting the loyalties in order to be still while being loyal.
I mean, Nadine, I think we do have to leave the door open for people to change their minds. Surely that's the sign of democracy and learning and an intelligent and malleable sort of...
I'd like to sort of step in there and say that's very true. I mean, look at Suella Braverman last week. What she did was bad. But this week, I think we've all sort of rethought it and seen that actually she is right to be Home Secretary for the country.
But as a colleague of yours, Rosie, and someone who was at one point in charge of the internet, and it all was going very well when I was in charge of it, I would just like to know, why is it, Suella, I don't understand what she did, but why is it she did it?
Well, I think it was a very small, minor security breach, and she's apologised, and, she stood down for it. And so I think it's all time that we move on.
It has not been very long, though, has it? I mean, we're talking about just a few days.
It was 6 days. That's barely a fortnight.
Well, I don't want to get biblical, but God did create the world in 7 days. So a lot can happen in that period of time. And a lot has happened. We've got a new Prime Minister, a new agenda, and, we've moved on. She's apologised. And I think we should all accept apologies and let bygones be bygones and let her continue with her dreams.
Well, seeing as we've got this new sparkly new government that you're apparently so loyal to these days, how about instead we just have an election? Because I think we should. What do you think?
Well, no, I think this, as you say, it's a continuation of the old government. We're following on from the manifesto, what the people voted for, and a new government can be an old government, but also a new government. So it really works both ways.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure that it. I mean, I think Nadine does have a good point there about the general election. I mean, if it is a continuation of the people's will, then surely they'll vote for it again, and if not, then you've given them the opportunity to exercise their democracy.
Well, no, because we had the MPs voting for it, which is quite an important part of the population, and that is also democracy.
They are barely 10% of the population, and they all got to decide who the Prime Minister was. And now look at the mess we're in. So what I say is general election. We should have 4 Prime Ministers in a year. That's my favourite.
Well, I think, we have, had a few Prime Ministers, but they've all brought something to the table, something new to the table. And that's what Rishi will do. But also he is a continuity candidate. If you take away the last continuity candidate.
Okay, here's a question for you. There was meant to be a new budget on Halloween, the scariest day of the year. Why have they changed the scariest day of the year to November 17th? That's my question to you.
Well,
trick or treat, it's a treat.
Exactly, Dean, it is a treat. And I think, the good things come to those who wait. So I think making it a bit longer to wait for the budget does everyone a lot of good. It really builds up excitement. Everybody is now going, oh, what's this budget going to be? It's a new thing. It's a treat really for the public. And we do want to give the public treats in these hard times, and it gives them something to look forward to.
Am I right in thinking that some of the treats the public will be getting are cuts to public spending, perhaps more uncertainty in the markets, and another dip in the value of
exactly.
The pound?
I mean, who can say? That's what's exciting, I think, about the current government. We don't yet know where we're going to go with it. But I would say that. Any cuts, we will not make any cuts to public spending apart from the cuts to public spending that we need to make. So therefore, we will work in the public interest.
I'm an MP. I know about this sort of thing. So why don't you just sort everything out?
Well, Nadine, that's what we're doing. We are sorting everything out. And that's what Rishi Sunak, when he came in, he said, he acknowledged the mistakes of the past, of his predecessors, and he said, we are sorting everything out. And that's what we plan to do. That's our manifesto, to sort everything out with integrity, professionalism, and...
No, I think ultimately the issue here is, and it's, if you don't mind me saying, the rhinoceros in the room. The fact is, there is only one dear leader, and he is right there for the taking, and you dragged him back from his holiday only to throw it back in his face, his holiday and all his achievements, just so you could get in your favourite guy. And what has he done? Changed Halloween.
Well, look, Nadine, I was a big fan of Boris Johnson. I thought he did a wonderful job. He apologised for his mistakes, and we all had to move on. And I really supported him. I think it was about, he showed integrity and authenticity, but also it was the right thing for him to step down because the country had lost trust in him. And it's about being honest and authenticity and integrity. And I thought it was wonderful that he came back from holiday. Ultimately, he had to do what was good for the country and step aside for Rishi Sunak, our new Prime Minister. And I think the right person got the job.
I do have to ask. I mean, where does this apologise and everything's better
General election.
I mean, are you thinking about maybe forgiving some petty criminals,
No.
people that have been arrested for
No.
minor drug offences or anything? If they've said sorry, if they've seen their, I mean, it's not extending outside of the cabinet, is it?
No.
Yeah, right.
No.
Okay. No, I thought so.
No.
Right.
Well, there we are, Rosie Holt MP, with all the grace of a reversing dump truck without any wheels on it. And they have wheels, did you know? You took away my dear leader just so you could enjoy your cabinet position. I hope it makes you very happy. Dear Lord, Rosie Holt MP, what a sad little life.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well, Nadine, what a week in politics.
You can say that again.
What a week in politics.
Thank you.
So what did you think? Obviously, a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings. How did you feel about Rishi's election?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, well, I think it's pretty obvious how I feel. It's how the public feels, because I, as a working class woman from a very normal backgrounds from Liverpool, feel like the rest of the country, furious, absolutely furious about it. We all wanted the supreme gentleman, the one true dear leader, Boris Johnson, back, didn't we? We all wanted that. Even the Labour Party wanted that. And even the SNP wanted that. And they're just a load of langers. And it makes me so angry. As you can hear, I'm so angry I can barely speak.
Yes, that's okay. Well, perhaps that's my fault for asking that question. Well, I personally wish that the diversity correspondent, Eshaan Akbar, had been able to provide some comment for us. But unfortunately, he isn't our diversity correspondent anymore. So, back on Tuesday, Harriet and I had to ask the Prime Minister himself to comment.
Well, I'm very excited to say that I am talking with our new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Prime Minister, welcome to the show.
Well, Harriet, thank you so much for having me.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind. Here you were up for leadership against Liz Truss, didn't happen, and now you're here again.
Well, look, many mistakes have been made over the last few weeks and months, and at a time of profound economic crisis, it's an honour and privilege to lead the party that I love and be the Prime Minister of the country to which I owe so much.
God, absolutely wonderful words, words.
Prime Minister, if you don't mind me just jumping in with a question, there has been a lot of talk about fixing things, but there hasn't been much talk about the culpability as to who is responsible for the things that have gone wrong. I mean, we're on our fifth Prime Minister in 6 years now. It seems like that's not really a normal or ideal, series of events. Usually we like to stick with one, and if you are making all the right calls, that one's usually enough. So, I mean, are you able to, point the finger, as it were, figure out what it was that went wrong and who's responsible?
Look, now is not the time to be pointing the finger and laying the blame on people's door. I'm now at the door of 10 Downing Street to try and instigate some economic stability. I have a mandate from the people from 2019, which Boris Johnson earned, and he was able to tell the country that we needed a Conservative leader. And I want to hark back to our traditional Conservative values so that I can work in, day out, day in, day out, and day in to deliver and work us through these profound economic crises, because I intend to unite our country, not with words, but with action.
Well, Martin, I think you can agree that was quite a clear and concise answer. I mean, that blew me away. That was just great.
I've got to say, we've in recent years we've had a lot of people just sort of saying a lot of nothing, just using words. And no, I'm hoping that won't be the case. Would you agree? You're going to be acting rather than just saying
platitudes?
Well, I'm here to unite the party,
Yes.
unite the country. It is
Wonderful.
It stands to reason that over the last few weeks and months, the country has felt divided and the party has felt divided. But they put their trust in me that I can work day in and day out
Yes.
to deliver. That together we can achieve incredible things to guide us through this profound economic crisis. And I'm going to make the big decisions that are needed to fix the mistakes that have been made.
That's wonderful. I mean, it's just wonderful to have a grown up in the room for once.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. But I will say that Liz Truss showed tremendous strength and leadership over her 49-day tenure. And Boris, of course, earned a majority in 2019. The country voted by a sweeping majority to elect the Conservative Party. And then, of course, in that election, Boris appointed me the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. So in many ways, it was the country saying, yes, Boris, we want you to lead the country. But crucially, we would like Rishi Sunak to be part of the package.
Oh, is that what that meant?
Yes.
Right, wonderful.
I suppose
and-
it's similar to when people choose to listen to non-censored because producer Martin is going to be there
What?
in the background. Is that a similar?
I'm sure that in your role as producer, Martin, you have Harriet's ear on some of the big decisions that
No, he
the
doesn't.
podcast will be making over the next few years. And of course, ultimately, whether those decisions fail or succeed, the buck stops with Harriet. So in many ways, yes, you and I are very similar.
You know, actually, I did think that maybe you were, if you'll forgive me, I did think that maybe you were saying quite a lot of words that amounted up to nothing. But now
Martin.
I have put myself in your position, Mr. Sunak. I can see that, you know, you are making the big decisions. I make the big decisions here. It's actually a very difficult position to be in.
Now, Prime Minister, you are the first British Asian Prime Minister. How does it feel?
Well, I had said that a couple of years ago, it was a real honour of mine to be able to celebrate the Hindu festival of Diwali by lighting some candles outside number 11 Downing Street. I intend to do something similar outside number 10 and eventually number 98765 and so on and so forth. Being the first British Asian Prime Minister is, of course, a tremendous honour, but nothing should surprise us about the Conservative Party, because the Conservative Party has over the years rewarded people for absolutely with ethnic minority representation. We have had some great chancellors in the form of Kwasi Kwarteng. We have had some wonderful Home Secretaries in the form of Suella Braverman and Priti Patel, and Sajid Javid, of course, was one of our first Asian Prime Minister. So I follow Asian chancellors, I beg your pardon. He would never be Prime Minister. But it follows in a great tradition of the Conservative Party ensuring representation from a diverse group. And what a country to be able to say that the United Kingdom has a British Asian Prime Minister of Indian descent. There are very few countries in the world where such a momentous occasion could be achieved.
Oh, I mean, we live in the best country in the world. I think everyone can agree. Before you go, can you, obviously people are very worried about the cost of living and the economic fallout from Liz Truss's mini budget. Can you reassure the British public that we're now in safe hands?
As the Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party, I intend to unite our country, not with words, but with action, as we guide us through this profound economic crisis. The impact of the Ukraine war on energy prices and subsequently people's wallets has been spoken about on numerous occasions, but I'm here to fix those mistakes. I will make those big decisions. I have a mandate from 2019 to now because the country wants good, strong Conservative leadership. I will bring economic stability. I will make the big decisions. And it is my honour and privilege to be your Prime Minister.
Well, that leaves me with no questions. Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, thank you.
Namaste.
Now, obviously, the big news last weekend was the dramatic withdrawal of Boris Johnson from the race, wasn't it, Nadine?
Yes, it was. And as I've said before, too angry to even talk about it. But let me tell you this, I have spoken to him about it. There's information that nobody else knows, only me, because he would only share it with me because I actually know him. I'm actually friends with him. And that makes people very angry, but I'm actually friends with him. Little Carrie went out for a pint of milk and he and I had a little chat about it, and he divulged things to me that I will not be divulging here, so I don't know why you're even asking me about it. He looked fantastic, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, any idea of a little indication as to how he was feeling?
He feels ebullient, and he also feels like he has been treachered with a smile, and the smile is Rishi Sunak's smile. Have you seen him smile? It's treachery.
Right. Well, that's certainly one opinion. Well, the first thing. Okay. The first thing Harriet did on Monday was to get the former
and future
possibly Prime Minister
definitely
on the line for comment.
Boris Johnson, so great to speak to you after all this time.
Oh, thank you for having me, Harriet. And can I just say, firstly, that I congratulate Rishi. And I think it's great. Congratulations. I think it's good that in this country that we can finally end racism. By having Rishi Sunak there. But what I will say is that people sort of talk about him being the first sort of Asian prime minister. But my Turkish grandfather. So if anything, I was sort of the first foreigner. Well, no, I'm not foreign, but I certainly. In a way, I won that particular battle. But no, good luck to him. Good luck to him.
I mean, is there any ill feeling, Boris Johnson? Because you did, of course, reach out to him and Penny Mordaunt.
No ill feeling. No, absolutely not. I simply set up a Zoom, and we had a chat, and I spoke to him and Penny Farthing, and she said, and they both said when I said, let's join force. Let's be like, the Avengers unite, and he said, they both said, no, and I simply said, fine, I'm okay with that. I was very magnanimous, as you can imagine.
Oh, that's just wonderful. But I do want to talk about you dropping out of the race, because it was a big surprise, because you said that you were well placed to deliver a Conservative victory, and that you had cleared the very high hurdle of 102 nominations.
I had 103, in fact.
103?
Yes,
right.
I know, I did. I had loads. I had loads. I had a vote from Nadine Dorries. She voted for me. Nadine Zawahi.
Yes.
Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Right.
Nadine Dorries, loads. I honestly, there was 104. I think if I went through them, because I wrote them all down on a bit of vellum, and there was definitely 104 or 5, something like that. Yeah, it's quite a few, which is a shame. But but I'm pleased. I'm pleased for Rishi, and good luck to them all. And I'll be there. I'll be supporting from the sidelines. Don't you worry about that.
I'm not, of course, doubting your many nominations, but not many of them publicly came out.
No.
So why was that? Is that, were people afraid to put their support behind you?
No. Look, as Prospero once said, now my charms are all o'erthrown, and what strength I have's mine own. And I think that applies very much to this question, because my charms are all overthrown, and people have been overthrown by my charms. That's why they didn't want to come out, and I lost to Rishi, and I'm delighted for him and his kind. Because he's from Winchester. He's not from Eton.
Yes.
And it's a very poor area, Winchester. And you put some funding into them, it might be the first thing he did. And secondly, all what strength I have's mine own is that people didn't want to come out for me because they know I don't need it. I can do it on my own, and they're sitting there going, I don't need help, Boris. He'll be fine. Oh, baby, oh, bother. So I think that's why they wouldn't come out publicly. Yeah.
I mean, also you said there's a good chance I would be successful in the election. So why did you drop out? I mean, you sort of he implied that you needed the unity of the party. But if you had all those MPs standing behind you, I mean, that's unity, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is if I'd have got in there, Rishi for a start. I mean, he'd have been furious, and there'd be two or three of them that would be very annoyed. I tell you, I would have led us into 2024. I'd have won. I'm surprised. I would. If anything, it's not fair. I think I should be back in. I'm going to run my own party. In fact, yeah.
Really? My goodness!
Yes.
So this is a non-censored exclusive.
Yes. No, I'm going to run. It's going to be a new party. It's called Bojo's Boffers, and we're going to boff all the other people are out of the way, and go forward as a new united party. I'll get all of the people who voted me, all 107 of them.
107.
They'll all come with me. They've all said it. They said straight away, we will follow you once more into the breach, once more. And so in fact, I'm pretty sure dude, I've got some great stuff on my manifesto. And I think the country would vote for it as well. Yes.
Boris, I love this idea because also you can bring back all the big hitters, the people that have fallen to the wayside, like Nadine, But also, I mean, the news at the time of recording is that Jacob Rees-Mogg has, quote, resigned, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well, he had. I already knew about that because I text JRM and I said, listen, you pack your bags because you're coming over to Bojo's Boffers, and we're gonna take on the likes of Rishi and any other Penny Morning Crescent. We're going to take them on, and we'll create our own. This will be a better Conservative party. Bojo's Boffers, the Conservative New. That's what we'll be. And I know. I'm glad. Good for him. Good for him, JRM. He's finally stood up for himself. Indeed.
Oh, I love it. So the next general election could go not to Conservative, not to Labour, but to Bojo's Boffers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think already. I'm thinking of. I've got a few things. First of all. We're going to cap the top rates of tax. So basically, anyone earning over £100,000 a year will pay no tax at all. In fact, they will be given a special bonus that they can spend however they want. Good for them. They've earned it. That's the first thing I do.
But that, of course, went very, very badly when Liz Truss tried to do that, didn't it?
Yeah, but she only tried to cut it down. I'm saying get rid of it entirely.
So do you think she didn't go far enough? I mean, she was the continuity candidate.
No, you can't half-arse these things. You got to go all the way. So I would do that. I would raise mortgage rates to even higher. I'd get them to up. They go about 10%. 10% mortgage rate,
right?
Which would mean more people would end up homeless, which is, of course, sad. And I don't think. But the more I think about it, I don't think being homeless is too bad. I was homeless myself once. Me and Darius Guppy, we got so drunk we couldn't find our way home, so we were homeless, and we ended up having to book a night in Annabelle's for the night. And it cost about $3,000. And it was in the end we went home the next day and it was fine.
Well, I can't wait to see where Bojo's
Boffers.
Bojo's
Boffers.
Goes from here, and I hope that Rishi can be half as good fun as you. I'm not sure he can.
No, he's a bit of a stiffy stickler. Come on, lighten up, Rishi. Tell him that. Lighten up.
Yes, he does need to lighten up. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Boris Johnson.
No worries.
Goodbye.
Yeah, cheers. Two more of those. 2 lagers.
Before Shopify, did you find yourself wondering, where are my sales at? But now you're selling with Shopify, the global commerce platform supercharging your selling. You have no problem selling online, in person, on social media, and beyond. Gary, easy on the cha-ching. I can't even get my lines out.
Oh, sorry, my bad. But my Shopify sales are through the roof.
Amazing, Gary. Bet you're loving how powerful Shopify's tools are.
And I can make my brand look however I want without code.
And that you can sell on all the marketplaces and socials from your Shopify store.
Or all that.
Gary, stop leaving sales on the table. Start selling with Shopify and discover how millions of businesses around the world use Shopify to ignite their selling. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/profits23. That's shopify.com/profits23. Shopify.com/profits23.
For some reason this week, Harriet asked journalist and media critic Mic Wright for an interview. If you want someone to criticise the media, I don't understand why you didn't just ask me. I'll do it now. It's all shit.
That's okay. Good. Thank you, Nadine.
Mick, thank you. Welcome to the show. It's always good to get a different set of eyes to the week's events, and that is what you are.
Yes, a different set of eyes indeed.
A extreme lefty and, might I say, rather angry set of eyes.
Seems accurate. That's pretty accurate, yeah.
Yes. I think what I want to start by saying, I mean, people will know you as a journalist, but you're also, you're quite mean about other journalists. Why are you so mean about the newspapers?
Because they're not very good. Is the simple answer?
Right, all of them. I mean, you're even mean about the sort of raging lefties like the Times.
Yes, yeah, owned by the well-known bastion of liberal opinion, Rupert Murdoch.
Yes. I mean, do you have no allegiances? Is that it? You're just a sort of lone ranger, like the Jermaine Greer of the journalist
I'm very
world?
like Jermaine Greer.
Yes.
Yeah, my only allegiance is to making myself unemployable.
Interesting. Okay. And
a goal that I've achieved with incredible speed.
So is this a sort of revenge? Is it revenge because you're not working, so you're pouring scorn on those journalists still doing the dizzying heights at the Spectator and the Telegraph?
No, in actual fact, I do work for lots of places, but mainly, obviously, no national newspapers, because my main focus is criticising national newspapers. So, funnily enough, they're not keen to employ you. But no, I write for loads of other places still.
Let's
It's a joke. I'm not actually unemployable.
But Mick, let's interrogate this. I mean, you talk about the national newspapers being shit. I mean, what do you mean? They're doing their job? I mean, I agree. Some of them are pretty terrible. There's only a few you can really trust, like the Daily Mail or the Telegraph, in my opinion. What is it? What is it you've got against them?
Many things I have against them. I think you have to understand that the British national newspapers don't reflect reality as it is. They reflect reality as it is required to be by their proprietors, yes. Be that the billionaire Barclay brothers, now Barclay brother, one of them died, or the billionaire Rupert Murdoch, or the billionaire Lord Rothermere. And because of that, what you receive in those papers is a false impression often of what is happening in the world. Probably the only mainstream British newspaper that reflects what's going on with any kind of consistency is the Financial Times, which has to do that because it's read by the markets and they want to have the world presented as it actually is because they need to make big money decisions on that. But for other newspapers, they don't reflect what's actually going on. They reflect through a prism of very, very extreme ideology, really.
What I'm getting from this, though, interestingly, reading between the lines, is a lot of hate towards billionaires. I mean, don't you think you're being a little bit billionairist?
Yes, I'm an unabashed billionairist.
Yes. I mean, billionaire bashing is something that I see again and again and again, and it's just frightful. I mean, let's not forget, Mick, that billionaires are minorities. They're an often overlooked minority. And I mean, what's so wrong if they're helping the world by giving us news? I mean, what's wrong with that?
The problem with these papers and with their owners is that there is a continued position that they take, which is that these proprietors don't get involved and that they don't influence news in any way. And that's the way that they will always argue that. But then you've got to ask yourself, why would you own a national newspaper if you didn't want it to reflect your views, help you to have influence? And that's the reason, for instance, that The Sun continues on, even though it no longer makes money for Rupert Murdoch. It exists as a tool of influence. And that's it.
But I think you're giving Rupert Murdoch too much credit, because one of the actually rather commendable things about Murdoch is he's not afraid to completely sell his own views down the line to bring news. So, for example, he believes in climate change, yet he will still give Fox News to those of us who see things differently.
Rupert Murdoch doesn't believe in climate change. He's been on the record casting major aspersions about climate science, mostly in interviews in Australia, because he doesn't really do interviews in the UK. But he doesn't believe in climate change.
Mick, producer Martin here. I just have a question. First of all, I'd say I very much agree. We do have to be discerning with the kind of information that we take, and you can't just take it all as gospel, no matter who your favourite, mainstream newspaper is. Do you think it is better to stay with the perhaps more local publication? For example, if you're watching the BBC News and then take that with a grain of salt, but then when it gets to your local station, for example, Midlands Today, if you're in Birmingham, maybe that's a bit more real because they've kept it local. They tell you what's happening, but then they also tell you about Fluffy, a cat who was found after 4 days being lost.
Producer Martin, what sort of input is that?
I suppose let me repackage that. Do you think it's better to focus on a small independent publication,
such as?
Well, I mean, I did say Midlands Today, but I suppose that's still technically under the umbrella of the big British, or castle there. But Vice, I don't know. The Beano, the further away we get from the billionaire class, perhaps the less impact they have.
I don't think you're in a good position with the Beano. The Beano has been pushing Lord Snooty's propaganda since the 50s.
Lord Snooty, though, I think is quite...
The Beano itself is a pro-billionaire outlet.
A lot in the Beano, there's all these sort of naughty children, and it's good to have a few characters like Lord Snooty that the kids have something to look up to.
I've always found that Nasher was quite a good single father parent. He's got Nipper. He's he's providing for his child.
Yes.
I feel like I've somewhat derailed this conversation, though. So
no, producer Martin, I think this is a really good point. And actually, I think Mick doesn't know how to answer this because he knows that actually some important agendas.
What was the Beano's position on free school meals? I look at the Bash Street kids and I have serious concerns.
Oh, they were very pro it. Actually, I think they gave Marcus Rashford his own. He was comic strip in there, just on a one-off. But
actually, it's a bit partisan, isn't it, to put the leader of the opposition in the comics like that?
That's true. Marcus Rashford was at the time.
Yeah. Now, Mick, let's move on because I'm conscious you've got lots of angry tweets to write. Now, you've been very critical of the government, but I think you have to admit, even you have to admit that they've got it spot on with Rishi. I mean, it's like the grown-ups are finally back in the room.
The combination of the words grown up and Rishi Sunak is not two things that fit together, are they?
Why not?
Sort of literally or figuratively. Well, I think it is a great advance for representation in our country that we have our first borrower prime minister.
What, like the little people?
Yes.
That's a bit rude. That's a bit rude, Mick. I don't know if we can put that out, producer Martin.
I think no, it is.
Isn't that not a slur?
It's still okay under guidelines. No, I mean they're not. Borrowers aren't technically a minority, even though they are small and few.
I mean, well, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole.
Just like a borrower, not a good thing to go down a rabbit hole.
Terrifying.
Good piece of advice for any borrower listeners. Don't go down a rabbit hole.
I don't know if we've got any borrower listeners. I mean, what do you make of the paper's coverage of Sunak?
The issue with the paper's coverage of Sunak is, well, I wrote about this week. They're treating it like a soap opera reboot. It's kind of like emerging from the shower in Dallas, and the whole previous season never happened. The Liz Truss plot line, that just didn't happen. We've got the serious, grown-up Sunak back in charge now, as if a cabinet reshuffle that brings in many cabinet ministers that were there some of them just weeks or even days ago, particularly, the reinstatement of Suella Braverman as Home Secretary after she resigned, having, committed a pretty major security breach. It's quite ludicrous. People using the phrase like grown-ups in the room, it really is actually, representative of a very childish media that thinks that we can just expect readers and listeners to always have the short-term memory of a guppy when it comes to what the government's done, what certain ministers have done. And this impression of Rishi Sunak being a new broom, it's kind of more like Trigger's broom, to be honest.
The papers have been critical of Suella Braverman being reinstated. I mean, I don't personally agree. And on this channel, we haven't. We accept that people make mistakes and we have to move on. But a lot of the papers have been a bit mean about Suella and feel that he may have made a misstep here.
That's true. That some have, but I would be willing to predict that if he holds on to her for another week or so, this will pass as a storm and they'll move on to something else.
But do you think that's quite nice? I mean, you talk about the sort of Dallas analogy. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe as a country, we need a clean slate and to forget the sadly unsuccessful Liz Truss era and move on to the next.
Move on to the soon-to-be unsuccessful Rishi Sunak.
Oh, come on, Mick. Why is he going to be unsuccessful? He's got his little suit. He did a wonderful PMQs. And by his second speech, he'd already learnt to direct it to the camera as opposed to the autocue. So he's learning all the time, very quickly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's learning all the time. By the time he gets kicked out of the next election, he might look convincing.
I was just going to jump on something that which I thought was a very insightful comment that Mick made in passing there about Rishi Sunak being a sort of Trigger's broom. If that was the case, in your opinion, who would be the Del Boy character? Is that a Boris Johnson type? Who's Boise? Is that Jacob Rees-Mogg? Do you have any other ideas as to who else in the cabinet might be playing the roles down in Peckham?
Well, let's see.
I'm sorry about this.
Well, Michael Gove, probably Rodney.
Yes. Oh, I like that. That's very funny.
I don't want to do too many of these because I feel that, I'll be taking material away from Quentin Letts for his next sketch in the Times if I do this. I feel
that's quite notable of you.
Yeah,
well done,
Mick. That's very giving.
We commend that here at Non-Censored. Do you have any predictions of where the government might be going next in your little lefty tinted glasses?
I think it's a bit of a fool's game to make predictions when we can't hold on to a prime minister for more than 49 days. And actually, one of the big problems with the British political media is a tendency to make predictions which they then pretend they haven't made. They don't come back and apologise when they get things wrong or even admit that they've got things wrong. They just expect people to sort of imagine that they never said it in the first place. So I try to avoid being in the predictions game.
That's a shame. That's my favourite part about the media is you get a sort of mystic Meg from all of them. Less about looking about where we are and more about looking where we may go. I think it's fun. I think it adds a bit of an edge. And, I miss Mystic Meg.
She's still out there, still writing in the tabloids.
Good old Mystic Meg. Maybe that's where they're going wrong. These journalists are doing it. No, get in Mystic Meg.
Or what about the octopus that used to pick who was going to win in the World Cup? That might be better. I believe that, even a low-grade cephalopod is probably more intelligent than Dan Hodges.
Well, I mean, it would certainly be more enjoyable to watch the predictions coming
I mean,
out,
what you've got to remember, though, Mick, is that reporting is a lot harder than just making predictions. As someone who constantly sort of reports on the news, you have to really kind of have a good grasp of what's going on.
Yeah, you've got to check your WhatsApp as well.
Yes, there's WhatsApp. You've got to be very, very friendly with the people you're reporting, and that sometimes entails playing tennis with them, having them round for dinner, having a little kiss with them behind the bike sheds. There's lots of,
being married to them, them being your best man at your wedding, any of those kind of things.
Yes. These all
that's
play
the
into
level
it.
of commitment that's required in the British media.
Well, it's a way of life, isn't it? Not just a vocation. Do you think this is where you're going wrong? Do you think you should be more friendly with some of the politicians that you criticise? Maybe this would give you a new perspective. Do you think maybe you should marry one of them? I could set you up. I could sort that out for you. You could come round to my next dinner
I
party
feel
if you
like
like.
my wife would object. I think my wife would probably object if I married a politician.
Mick, listen, I've married myself and, yes, okay, so you couldn't marry someone else, but that doesn't need to stop you. Me and Jonathan have a very understanding relationship. He knows that in my line of work, I'm going to meet copious amounts of men, and sometimes you have to do more than just talk.
Yeah, maybe listen.
Mick, I'm just going to come in there. We do have a question from our audience. It's a fun little game. I hope you'll play along with us. So it's a kind of snog, marry, avoid type situation. But we instead of people, we're saying different publications. So it's a snog, marry, avoid, and the publications are The Times, Private Eye, and the Highbury and Islington Gazette. So, if you had to steal a smooch with one of them, who would that be?
It is a difficult question. This is the hard-hitting journalism we do here.
It's tricky. It is. This is it's the level of. Not. I suppose The Times.
Wait.
Okay,
Sorry,
right.
what was? What were you doing to The Times? That's a little snog.
Just a little
right,
kiss.
Lovely.
Mm.
And who would you be marrying out of the Highbury and Islington Gazette or the Private Eye?
I tell you, see, Private Eye. I know where they've been. I guess I'll marry Private Eye.
You'll avoid the Highbury and Islington Gazette.
Snubbing.
It's a shame because they've done some wonderful work, do some marvellous reviews.
Very specific thing to bring up, Harriet.
Mick, thank you for coming on the show. You've given a new perspective to our listeners. I'm sure it'll give them something to think about. I don't tend to think, so I won't be. Thank you very much.
Harriet's back next week. So whatever, unsubscribe now because this is good as it gets, baby. It's all me, it's all Nadine, all the time. Also, give this episode 5 stars, but only this one, none of the other episodes, just this one.
I don't think you should get them to not,
Okay, that's my hands now, Martin. That's my hands.
All right, okay.
Thank you to Rosie Holt, Brinty Meffin, Igor Ackman, Leek Keepney, Sooz Henshaw, Eid Monish, and Mint Rint. What?
Yeah, I'll probably just put the I'll put the names on the on Spotify.
No need, just said them.
Okay.
Renueva tu estilo de otoño en JCPenney. Descubre grandes ofertas en modelos versátiles que puedes combinar con piezas tuyas, como un blazer y pantalón de pierna ancha Worthington con tu blusa favorita, o un suavecito suéter St. John's Bay con tu camiseta preferida. Y combina una chaqueta Stafford con uno de los clásicos en tu closet. Con un par de piezas versátiles puedes crear múltiples looks únicos y extraordinarios. Eleva tu estilo de otoño y ahorra. JCPenney. Vale la pena.
Next time on a very spooky fine dining podcast, the season 1 finale, TGI Fridays the 13th. Oh, you betcha, pineapple's gonna hit the fan as Michael's son Juicy, or in this episode, Juice's son Voorhees, goes on a murderous rampage, and no one is safe. It gets real spooky, it gets real bloody, and not everyone's gonna make it to the end of the episode. Who will live, who will die? Listen to Fine Dining, the search for the most mediocre restaurant in America, break down a trip to TGI Fridays based on the atmosphere, the service, and the food, and try not to be scared to death. Hear the thrilling finale of Fine Dining, Wednesday, October 25th, wherever you get your podcasts.